stage something. So, what can I tell you? I did the walk. I did this. I was going to read you a bit from the other book actually, just by way of kind of me getting in the mood really, because this was the first. Because we're about to do this. I was talking to some mates today about trying to work on a new project connected to the arms trade, which I covered in this book, which is as usual on the famous Nelson Mandela. And the title, incidentally, comes from a South African website from arms dealers, and they were selling leg irons, and this was the strapline, as used on the famous Nelson Mandela. And it was one of those days where you just thought, do you know, I think I ought to take the rest of the afternoon off. I mean, one is, you've got the title of the book. You know, really, you need to process this stuff. I mean, it was quite, you know, it was incredible that you could use that as some kind of selling point. But there's a whole thing that we did, which I'm hoping I can find, which was a story about, it's just a silly story, and it occurred to me to go back and talk about this when I was in Australia. And I was in Australia recently, and I'll tell you why at the end of the story. And this happens, this is a little short story, and it happened at the Docklands. There's an arms fair that happens every 2 years at the Excel Centre, and I became quite involved in some of the activism that was going on opposing the arms fair and what was happening there. To the extent where I did actually, there's a whole load of stuff, you know when you get slightly sort of taken away, and you sort of get carried away with an idea. And it's just, we found out where loads and loads of the arms dealers, we said, well, this must be simple. You know, the arms dealers, if you're going to a conference, what do? You normally sort of stay in a recommended hotel. So why don't we just phone around the hotels in London and say we're BAE Systems and just check in on our reservation. And then eventually someone will go, oh, well, it's all fine, and we'll go, oh, that's where they're staying. So we did that, and you know, obviously it's slightly duplicitous, but we did that. And we found out where they're staying in this big hotel next to Tower Bridge. And one morning we sent a load of women friends down there who were very young and dressed up very well. And they stood with in this very sort of corporate attire with this laminated sign saying, free bus ride to the arms fair, please inquire here. And they stood in just after breakfast at the thing. So, and all these we didn't really know whether it was, but all these arms dealers came along and just said, we're always free, this is and we'd actually hired a bus, but we didn't know it would work. We just thought it would be some kind of noble failure. And so all these arms dealers are queuing up to get in the bus, and me and my mate go, what do we do? So we've now got a bus full of arms dealers, which we start driving off towards the arms fair. And what we do is we actually kind of did a bit of a bus. My mate's got a camera, he's a really tall bloke, and he looks like a sort of like, if Eric Morecambe was a bare knuckle fighter, this is what he'd look like. And so he's tall lad, but he looks like that. And he got his camera out, and I just started doing a big speech going, you're all part of the arms industry, and as such you actually created Iraq's national debt because you sold weapons to Saddam Hussein, then put it on the government's export credit guarantee department scheme, which means that taxpayers' money funds any default that happens when Saddam Hussein doesn't pay for the bullets that we actually help fund, then the taxpayer covers the loss, so you get paid, the debt gets transferred to us, it's repaid via that then gets turned into the national debt, so the Iraqi people are still paying for the bullets that we actually sold to Saddam Hussein to actually oppress them, and we know you feel very bad about that. We pass around a collection plate, please put in as much as you can. £10.50. And what was great was when the plate came back, this Italian guy right at the front looked at me and said, I would put money in, but your tactics are mafioso. But anyway, this was I actually started, I went through this sort of period of activism which was just about doing as much as you can to kind of embarrass or shame or obstruct the arms industry. And then I got into the arms fair and started sort of covering it and sort of writing about what they were doing wrong in terms of, they were saying one thing but were selling torture equipment while saying, no, we've all cleaned up our act, which is quite a hard thing to say if you're an arms dealer. But I talked to several insiders and I got this story. It's a short one. It says, the London gathering of the arms dealers at their fair trade down at the Docklands is called DICEY by protesters, a bastardisation of its acronym. It is self-mockingly referred to as our biannual bloodfest by Brinley Salzman of the Defence Manufacturers Association. The organisers prefer to call it the Defence Systems and Equipment International, DICEY. It's held at the Excel Centre, a concrete box of an exhibition hall whose designers mistook size for grandeur. 1,000 companies exhibit at DICEY, military delegations from between 50 to 80 countries turn up to visit, and some 25,000 folks pass through the turnstiles to stop and gawk and maybe buy. However, amongst arms dealers who travel the world hawking their wares, DICEY has a rather unique reputation. Apparently, it attracts more protesters than any other arms fair in the world. And I might proudly add that an industry insider informed me that by and large we have a much better class of protester too. Though my source did qualify for this statement. He said, at a defence event in Australia, the antis, which are the protesters, turned up in a huge papier-mâché penis with loads of protesters inside it. So there was this huge pink thing, which they called the penis of peace, out on the street as part of the demonstration. When suddenly the penis breaks away from the main demonstration and charges at the main doors of the defence fair. Unbeknownst to the police, inside the penis of peace is a battering ram. So the penis of peace charges at the doors, breaks through the doors, gets into the fair, whereupon the protesters jump out from underneath the penis and start running around the place causing chaos. More than that, every protester is naked and covered in olive oil, so the security had a bugger. So I just thought I'd tell you that.